Good evening, everyone. This is Arthur Robinson Jr. I am the creator of PowerfulInterviews.com. I want to welcome each and every one of you to this powerful video. In this video, you're going to experience life-changing information that you will not find anywhere else. I'm doing an incredible interview with a great friend of mine. His name is Bob Chapman. And Bob Chapman is a smart, intelligent businessman. And Bob Chapman used to be the world's largest gold and silver stockbroker in the world, and much, much more. So in this interview, you're going to hear exclusively about the Federal Reserve. You're also going to hear exclusively about the global financial system and why the global financial system is headed for catastrophe and who is responsible for it, and much, much more. So right about now, go get your pen and your pad, sit back and relax, and write down some notes. In this interview that I'm going to reveal to you with my great friend Bob Chapman in regards to the global financial system and what you can do in these tough economic times is going to change your life. So check it out.
You are experiencing a life-changing, powerful interview, and you are hearing it first from Arthur Robinson Jr.'s PowerfulInterviews.com.
Good evening, everyone. This is Arthur Robinson Jr. I am the creator of PowerfulInterviews.com, and tonight I have another special interview for each and every one of you. Tonight I have a wonderful person on the call, and he's a great friend of mine. His name is Bob Chapman. And for those that don't know Bob, let me explain to you about this incredible man. Bob Chapman was born and raised in Boston, Massachusetts, and attended Northeastern University, major in business management. He spent 3 years in the U.S. Army counterintelligence, mostly in Europe. He speaks German and French and Spanish. He lived in Europe for 6 years, off and on, 3 years in Africa, a year in Canada, a year in the Bahamas. Bob Chapman became a powerful stockbroker in 1960 and retired in 1988. For 18 of those years, he owned his own brokerage firm. He was probably the largest gold and silver stockbroker in the world during that period. When he retired, he had over 6,000 clients. Bob belonged to the Traders Association for 25 years. He did all his own trading during his South African years. Some was done directly through Johnsonburg, but 95% was done through London brokerage firms. Hence, he has extensive contacts both in London and on the continent, and that is an awesome resume. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome Bob Chapman to the call.
Well, good evening, and thank you very much for having me.
Well, I'd like to thank you, Bob, for taking time out of your busy schedule to educate my audience about the global financial system and what's happening in today's economy. I gladly appreciate it.
Well, I'm happy about that, and I'm happy to contribute anything I can.
Now, what I would like to know, and can you educate my audience in regards to who is Bob Chapman, and can you break down in layman's terms who created the global financial system, and in your opinion, do you think that the global financial system is headed for catastrophe?
Today's system evolved from the financial system in Europe set up by the Knights Templars during the 13th century. It was taken from them physically by the nobility of Europe as well as the Vatican, and they tried to eliminate as many of those people as they could. They didn't get them all, needless to say. And the powers that were powerful at that time, which was the Lombard League in Italy, the center of which was Venice, and you probably heard about Venetian bankers, they took over what had been run by the Knights Templar. And in 1348, not too long after they took over, the whole system collapsed. And that year they had the plague in Europe, which was dreadful. It killed half the people in Europe. And as time went on, those kinds of mercantile business financial arrangements were made throughout Europe. And once the United States was settled, we adopted the same kind of system, basically. You might call it today an Anglo-American system. And the United States had its ups and downs during the ensuing years from 1790 onward. And in 1913, the Federal Reserve was formed. It's a private corporation owned by 12 Federal Reserve banks. And their ownership, the majority, is held by old New York banking families, as well as foreign banking families as well. And what they have done is, for the last almost 100 years, have systematically looted the American people. And, of course, Wall Street and banking are in it up to their eyeballs, transnational conglomerates, the insurance industry, pharmaceuticals. They all have their niche. And they make unbelievable amounts of money. They do what they want. They control government from behind the scenes in both parties, have for a long, long time. And their goal, now that they have this ultimate financial power, which is under siege presently, their goal is world government. And that includes all the bureaucrats, all the politicians, most of the titans of industry. They're all in it together. And incidentally, I've been studying this for 50 plus years. I've written thousands of articles on it. I've done thousands of radio and television shows. I couldn't begin to count them. And for many, many years, people didn't believe what I had to say, and now they do. Because America and the world is in serious financial and economic trouble, and it just didn't happen that way. It was planned that way.
You mentioned the Federal Reserve Bank. So basically, the U.S. Federal Reserve Bank is a private bank that's run by private stockholders and is created purely to generate private profits. Is that correct?
That's correct. And they have the ability to create endless amounts of money out of thin air. And that's why recently a bill passed the House, overwhelmingly, mind you, until it got into the Senate where it was destroyed, to audit and investigate the Fed. And they don't want that to happen because then everybody's going to find out what they're doing. See, you know, people talk about inside information. The titans of Wall Street make the inside information. They tell the Fed what to do. They tell Congress and the Senate what to do. They own them all. Not all of them, but most of them. And that's why the American public is outraged at what's going on, and they can't get a handle on it. Because they don't understand who's behind the scenes running things.
So the super elite, the ultimate rich, they create the debt, like Goldman Sachs, and then Goldman Sachs give their toxic debt to the government, and then basically the government pass that off to the middle class people and the poverty, and basically the middle class and the poverty is paying off their debt that they created.
That's correct. Absolutely correct. I mean, I wrote an article.